Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kissy and I wanted to have a conversation in regards to a question that I heard in regards to where do these concepts that we have of us being superhuman come from? And why would we assume so, right? When we know that there was nothing abnormal in our upbringing or our lineage or our heritage. So where did the superhuman concept derive from in our own consciousness? So I can't speak for others, but what I can say is that growing up in a society or in a world where you're programmed to believe first and foremost via television programs or even in child stories that there is something magical about who you are. That if you believe, you can become. If you believe, it will manifest. You're always taught this, that if you believe you can do anything, you can be anything. Be all that you can be. Find your future in the Army. That was a commercial that played all throughout my childhood in the 80s. I'm not suggesting go to the Army, but that will tell you a little bit about my backstory. Being an Aries and having not grown up with the concept of military life at all. It was never a thing for me. Although I remember when I was about 5 years old, my sister had a friend that one of our neighbors lived upstairs, and my mom would take us there. She had two older siblings, two sisters, and one of them would come visit with her military uniform. And I guess I only saw her maybe once or twice, but my mom always made a highlight of her being a military woman. So that wasn't like something that was pressed upon. It was just in passing, okay? And then the only other reference to that would have been when I was in my early 20s, finding out that I had a cousin that joined the police force and then was going to be joining the Secret Services. That, again, became a big highlight of the family, like a big proud moment. Like, wow, what a great achievement. What a wonderful thing. Meanwhile, up to that point, I've done what I was expected to do. Do well in school, get jobs so that I can get the things that I wanted for myself and not depend on my parents for it. Become independent and get my own vehicle so that I can navigate to and from school and work. And then the next best thing in my mind was, okay, the next achievement for me in adulting would be to get my own place. So that became my first goal. Where would I live? How would I live? A skyrise on the beach, a house on an island, a house in the suburbs, downtown. It was all part of my identity. Where will I live? How will I live? How do I want to experience my life? So I started doing the research and started to go about my life with my, going to college was about finding the appropriate career choice that would allow me the financial freedom to live the lifestyle I wanted to live. And I chose business because all other options didn't seem like something I could do long term. It just felt like not worth the effort, or not worth the, I couldn't see myself in anything long term other than business. And I think business, the only reason that was a thing for me was simply because there was a freedom. You could do business anywhere, right? And what did that mean? It means having the freedom to make as much money as you want. Whatever business you do or that you go work for, it's like there was a freedom of organizations I could choose from, a freedom to not only choose the organizations that I wanted to work for if I was in business, then I could decide what kind of business I wanted to do and learn about. So that process, and also seeking my own independence, proved to be a little more difficult and challenging. Let me fix this. A little more difficult and challenging than I had anticipated, because I started feeling the pressures of adulting, which was only affected by my interpersonal relationship, in particular my romantic partnerships. When those things failed, I lost the ability to pursue those goals easily. I lost interest in the subject matters that I was fascinated by. And then it made me feel like I was losing control of the maintaining my keeping up with what I was learning and manifesting. And, passing my classes was difficult. Getting through things was challenging me, because the emotional relationships would have an impact on me in ways that I couldn't do what I was doing. That was what I was doing to make my money, and how I made my money, and the energy that I put into it. So every time I tried to go and make that money, some relationship kind of festered. So little by little, I would do myself a favor and release myself from certain relationships, and then put all my focus back on myself, my own goals again, my own direction. What direction do I want to go in? What is it that I'm seeking to achieve here? I'm seeking to achieve a level of comfort. I'm seeking to achieve a level of freedom. I'm seeking to achieve a level of independence that is my own, that no one can take, that cannot be played with, that cannot be used or manipulated, that can be done on my terms in a way that I can feel proud of and feel that I've succeeded in gaining those attainments. So, why did I then have to believe and have to have faith? Because through all those trials, there was a lot of conversation with God, a lot of conversation with, why isn't this working? Or what are you showing me? Is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I want? Is this really where I should be going? Is this where I should be headed? Is this how I should be doing it? Am I not doing great in it because I'm not good at it? Or am I not interested because I'm not good at it? You know what I mean? There were all these questions about all these things. And we're talking about the process of establishing my business. What is my business? And I was trying to figure out, is my business in, as I pursued what does business mean? Most people have a certain idea of what business even means. And as I pursued that, everything that I pursued that I thought was business wasn't business. And it left me with bare minimum necessities. It left me with bare minimum network, simply because of my own choice. It was a choice to isolate. It was a choice to carve out my own creation. And as I went through the process of that and discovering what my faith is and what my faith can do, that's when the supernatural belief became a reality, because my prayers, if you would, were being answered. My conversations with God were being heard. And it was manifesting in ways that were considered by many, or would be considered by many, miraculous. The way that my life kind of started to unravel, unfold, and repurpose itself. It was like it was like if the universe was playing a game called Create My Life. And I was participating with that. And it felt like you finally realize that you are the creator of your reality. And everything you've been through was an experience it was material. It was material for you to use, to repurpose, to intentionally create and become a lot more definitive in what it is that you create for yourself and others. What you create as your brand. So to go back to the whole, why do we believe in a concept of supernatural? Where did the whole concept of alien DNA, and why would I even presume that? Why would any of us presume that we have that? And as far as supernatural experiences, I will go and express these supernatural experiences. Besides the prophetic dreams and the ancestors that visit in dreams and provide messages, besides the astral travels experiences, the out-of-body experiences, and all those things that when you talk about with most people, it's not a very regular thing that happens with most people, apparently. I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people do not have these experiences regularly, do not have them or do not experience them in ways that they even pay attention to them. So that's a factor. But let me tell you about what I called my first alien encounter, or UFO encounter. I was at the beach with my best friend, and it was after midnight. We used to drive to the beach a lot, and it was a beautiful place to like sit and just be with yourself, with life, with just to be. And so that was like my little place to go. And whenever we were not in the mood to be hanging out, with the friends and the noise, and we just wanted to go chill, we'd get a drink, we'd head out to the beach, and we'd sit at the beach and talk, or sometimes just sit there without saying anything really, staring into the ocean. On this specific night, it was like a full moon, very bright moon right in front of us. It was majestic. We were not drunk or anything like that. Barely had, 2 sips of a wine cooler, if anything, that day, or that night, I should say. And so we're sitting there and we're just kind of gazing at the moon, when all of a sudden this triangular ship, I swear to God, like a Batman scene, like gets in front of, like blocks the moon, but then comes towards us, to the point that we look at each other, we grab our things, we run to the car, and by the time we look again, it's beyond us. It had gone towards the west. If we were on the east, it went towards the west. And it just like, it went past us and it was gone. It was just gone. So we sit in the car and we're like, we know something occurred here. And we're staring at each other like, this is crazy. Like, we're in like panic, freak out mode. I'm like, you did see what I saw. Yes, I saw what you saw. But what the hell was it that we saw? Was it a military ship, right? Was it, I mean, the first thing we actually thought was like, this is a UFO. It was nothing like an airplane, and it didn't operate at all like an airplane. But we weren't really familiar with UFOs, and we weren't really familiar with military equipment either at the time. We tell our families this, but it died down. It was like, okay, people are fascinated by the story, but it was just that. It was just a moment and a story, and you just drop it. It was never really talked about again. But then it was New Year's turning into 2012. So it's New Year's 2011. And I'm on the porch with my neighbor who I worked with in immigration services. This man is more left brain than anybody I knew. The most logical person ever. I mean, if it was just me and my parents, then you would probably say, yeah, they're a little weird anyway. Like, they'll believe those things. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe they're naive or whatever you would think of us that way. Because we were open to those things, those topics. So we were fascinated by those things too. But my neighbor was definitely not like that. And he was not a religious person either. However, when what we saw occurred that New Year's, right after midnight, yay, we go out to the balcony, celebrate, smoke and drink, and all of a sudden we're staring up. We see these orange orbs, one after the other. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was like the exact amount for that year, which was 2012. And we were like counting them. 1. Oh my God, there's another one. 2. But it was just light, like a light orb, and it was orangey, yellowish orange. There was a security guard. We were on the second floor, and the security guard was beneath us, and he just stopped his cart to stare and look up. And it's like we were frozen for a moment in time. We all just like stared, to the point that my neighbor actually called his sister, and she was, several states away. And I mean, he was like losing it. He was in freak out mode. He was like, I think the world's gonna end. I don't know what's going on, but what I saw was beyond this world. And I mean, he lost it. And we were laughing about it. And I called one of my mentors, spiritual mentors, and I said to her, you wouldn't believe what we just saw. And it was very strange, And her husband, who worked for it's a huge securities company. So he's very techie. She's extremely spiritual, but he's very techie. And he did some research online, and he comes back with, is this what you saw? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's been noted, in different parts of the world. I think I talked about it or posted about it, and some fool commented on it on my page. But anyway, I say it again because it was what it was. And so, okay, so it occurred, but again, now I had just started working with immigration services that same December, and I had already, I had started like December 2nd or something like that, 2nd or 3rd. And it was already New Year's. So it was like January. We had just come back from the holidays, Christmas and New Year's holiday. So I come back to the office and I'm telling my new friends at immigration what happened during their holiday. And I even shared a video of it. And they see it, they look at it, and they're like, "You're so weird. What is that? Oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that." And I'm like, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but can you explain what the hell it is and why it looked like that? And nobody could explain it, but what do? They laugh it off and act like it's nothing. They acted like it was just nothing. So of course they make you feel like you're woo-woo and crazy for even like discussing it, taking it further, questioning it. So those were my experiences with that. But let me say something else. Why would I assume anything? I'll tell you one more thing. In the last 5 years or so, I've done some very intensive research. And I have discovered a lot of things. Like, for instance, the year that I was born was the year that they were doing a lot of experiments on children. Experiments of psychic nature. And you can look that up if you want. Or of mind control, I would say. Mind control. Okay, so we could say, was I mind controlled then to follow the path that I was given by the government? And they purposely led me to join the military because it wasn't in my mind to pursue a military career. And the reason I pursued a military career was I saw it like it was a sign from God, because I went through like a phase of a lot of, I would say maybe, it looked like a string of bad luck, right? I was in my early 20s. I felt like I had gone through, when it was just like a string of bad luck. Work-wise, not even health-wise, like I sprained my ankle, lost my job, broke up with a boyfriend, lost some friends, and it was just like, I just felt like I was having a quarter-life crisis. And I'm walking like a little victim through the mall when a recruiter catches my attention and basically begins his courtship of me, so to speak, in terms of getting me recruited into the Army. I spent a year in that process, but within that year, I further got into problems. It's like things grew. Like my problems were not just small little, emotional dramas that I was creating. This was like now becoming a legal situation. I got into a fight at a club, not because I started it. I got attacked at a club, and I ended up, breaking glass on someone's head. And so for doing that, I ended up getting arrested, and the charges were dropped because the lady was apparently a fraud. She had committed some kind of fraud. So they knew that she was just after me, just to sue me, like to make money off of me. Even though I did hurt her, but it was shown and proven that it was self-defense. My point is that was a very vulnerable moment for me, because they were talking massive jail time for something like that. And I was freaking out. So I was in massive, like, Lord Jesus, what in the world is going on? How did my life get to this point? And the shame that comes across, like, this had never happened in my family. And so I was feeling very like, oh my God, what a loser, right? So when the recruiter finds me, it felt like a rescue ranger, like maybe this is the answer to all my problems. This sounds like a solution, like it would make things so much easier for me. How? Well, it would ease my mind of how, what do I do for the next, 4 years? Oh, I have a career, it's paying me, and okay. So I'll have a career, I'll have I'll have the ability to do anything I want college-wise. I'll have the freedom to not, to live independently, basically. Once I'm done with all my training, of course, and all of that. So it answered a lot of those quarter life crisis issues, and it was a great escape from the melodrama of, the ex-boyfriend and the friends that were, making me feel like, what was the point of me being there? So I leave. And I feel like I'm finally getting my life in order. But do you know what happens when you go into the military? You know how many shots you get via a machine? So something interesting at my birth, when I was born, my mom says that for no reason they put a gas mask over her face. They covered her up. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't acting weird. Nothing crazy. But she was by herself, young mother. My dad wasn't there at the time at the hospital. He was, I guess, working. And so she was in panic mode. She didn't speak the language either. She said they strapped her arms up. They covered her face. They put the gas mask on her. And they took me away. We talked about these tests that were being done, mind control tests, right? But then when you think about all of the shots that were given to me while I was in the military, and then here I am, a completely defiant human in a way, defiant that I did my 4 years and I left. I did my, technically my 8 years, because you do 4 years active duty, 4 years active reserve. I did that. And then I went for another government job working for Homeland Security. So it's like I was moving up in that system. And it's ironic that once I started prioritizing myself at the time that I was pregnant with my child and putting my health as a priority and demanding that the questions that I was asking be heard, because I was a great little trooper I'm not really, okay, I'll say, by that I mean, when I say not really, what I mean is I've always challenged my chain of command. I was always rebellious. But I became really smart in how I rebelled and how I questioned them and how I got answers and how I established a better system of integrity within the chain of command that I operated in. But it wasn't until Immigration Services I noticed I had dealt with a client and it was a top secret case, and it became a thing that got investigated. Because I was the person that dealt with the client that came to my desk was a criminal being investigated. So now I was getting investigated via this criminal that I was just so lucky to serve that day. I didn't put the two and two together, that when I didn't realize this happened very early in my career with immigration, that I got investigated, okay? Internal investigation. And a series of events started to occur that were making it very difficult for me to maintain my job. Mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress, and then the things that I was going through at home. It was just horrible. So I requested to work from home. I could have done a lot of my work from home due to my pregnancy and my condition at the time. And they refused to assist. They used my maternity leave. And by the time I had my child, I didn't have any days. So I was basically forced to resign. And I was kind of glad, because I was done. It was, they weren't going to conform. They weren't going to yield. They weren't going to assist. And I wasn't going to continue to fight that battle. So I did resign. But do you know what happened? I think it was like a week later I got called to come in and and receive some documents. And it was the director contacted me and asked me to come. And I went to her office and she gave me a paper signed that stated that all investigations were completed. I'm like, investigations completed? She's like, yeah, from that one case. I'm like, you mean from way back when? I didn't even realize they were still investigating me the entire time. We're talking about, what, 2-3 years later or something? But everything came back cleared, a clear investigation. But I get this document signed, and it was almost like it felt like a betrayal, because my own people were investigating me, like if I was a criminal. And what I realized is the entire time that this was happening, I'm thinking, of course they know I didn't do shit. Of course they know I didn't, like in my mind, it was the obvious. I just attended this customer that came to my info desk. I did my due diligence as I'm supposed to. I handled the case as I was meant to handle it. I answered all the questions. I even asked the investigators if they wanted me to like help them out, be basically I could help them with the investigation any way that I could. And they were like, oh yeah, thank you, but we're good with this case. So you see that at that point, I'm thinking we're good. Everything is good to go. I'm in the clear. I don't know shit about this. And all of a sudden, I'm asked to resign. And when I resign, then I get this paper that says investigation is over and it's all cleared. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder if my forced resignation had anything to do with their prejudgment or bias of who they thought I was based on me just being investigated, not having given me the proper, I guess perhaps they judged me unfairly based on me being investigated, which was a proper protocol that they were supposed to do, to follow. You know what I mean? So it really made me look at things very differently. So when you ask about, supernatural powers and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, my psychic abilities developed so much after having left that place, because I was always already doing a lot of my spiritual work long before I started the military and all of that. Okay, this was in my childhood. That was my primary interest, developing, understanding my auric energy, understanding just all of those things, clairvoyance and all of that. Those were my hobbies. So by the time I got out, I had some leeway that I can live off of, my funds that I had saved and all of that. So I started working online and doing what I really loved. And I contracted with, different companies to do my work. And I was establishing myself well, but I got sabotaged with that too. As soon as I went online, I get harassed like I'm some kind of voodoo or some cult behavior and stuff, getting super attacked online. So you tell me then what all of that is. You would maybe think, oh, why would you think but if you think about it, I was born to a non-English speaking person during a time where mind control was being used. I was lured into a career that I had never even conceived of doing. I was elevated into positions based on my integrity and work ethic. And I was advancing because I deserved to advance. But at what point do you want to stop someone and say, we don't want you to go further? And because now you want things your way, or because you're asking a little too much from what we think you deserve, all this happens. And I still make it and succeed on my own with everything I've learned. So now they're going to try to sabotage that. Is there something that they know about? I mean, think about it. What would they have tried if they were experimenting and trying to use different things to see, and the expectancy of success was 1 in a million. What if I was the 1 in a million success stories that they weren't anticipating? That would give great reason to try to sabotage. So that's probably why I consider myself supernatural. That's probably why I talk the way I talk. And that's probably why I believe what I believe. And I can't be told otherwise, because nothing that I have said is far out. Nothing that I have said is crazy. You know what I mean? The fact that I can perceive the intentions, or that I can see the bigger picture that isn't being done in front of me, but I've experienced in one way, even though it's meant in another way, though that's to be debated. For those that I have no interest in debating, though, because I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. But for those that ask the question, like, where do you come off thinking you're all supernatural, or that you got anything going on with what you got? Well, that's my story. That's why. So that's all, folks.